the example that we have covered just now was related to one-dimensional array. So the next example that we are going to cover is multi-dimensional array. Okay, how do we actually declare and initialize multi-dimensional array? So let us actually do some example here. So we can actually declare or initialize the arrays. Okay, for example, let's say that I'm going just to use the index here. Okay, now assume that I'm going to declare an integer type two-dimensional array. So I have int. Okay, now this is for array. Now for two-dimensional array, this is how we do it. Okay, you can see that there is one comma here. This is two-dimensional array. So if three-dimensional array, we can have something like this. So this is using C#. It is somewhat different from using Java. So for Java, if you are using two-dimensional array, okay, this will become two-dimensional array, something like this. Okay, but in C#, okay, this is considered what we call a jagged array, which we will cover very soon. Okay, but for two-dimensional array, this is two-dimensional array. Okay, let's say that we have the array name as int array. Okay, now to initialize the value, okay, we can use the keyword new. Now this is int. Okay, now assume that we have for this array we have 3 rows and 2 columns. Now the size of the array is 3, 2. So meaning that the first value is for the row and the second value is for the column. Now for if we are to actually initialize the value, we can use the curly bracket. So this is the curly bracket. Okay, now we can actually, okay, this is the curly bracket. Okay, I'm going to actually enter this so that we can see more clearly here. Okay, now assume that we have 3 rows and 2 columns. Now the first row, okay, this is the first row. Okay, now this is the first row. This is the second row. Is the third row. Okay, and I put the semicolon here. Okay, now assume that within the first row we have some values here. For example, 1, this is the row, the first row and the first column. This is the second column. Okay, let's say we have 3, 4, and we have 5, 6. Okay, so this is actually, this is row 1, row 2, and row 3. So in terms of the index, okay, the first row is index. The index is 0. We start with a 0. For example, this is 0, 0. Okay, meaning that row 0, column 0. This is row 0, column 1. So this is row 1, column 0. Row 1, column 1. And this is row 2, column 0. And this is row 2, column 1. Okay, so this is how we declare the array. Okay, let's say that we have another way of declaring the array. So this is actually, we declare the size of the array explicitly using the new, okay, the new reserve word or keyword. Okay, we can also declare the array and initialize implicitly. Okay, for example, this is, you can also do it like this. Okay, now this is two-dimensional array. let's say that I give a different name, int array 1, okay, equals to, okay, now here, rather than using the new, we can actually, okay, this is for the array, and inside we can actually put in different values, such as, let's say 1, 1, we have 1, 2, and we have 1, 3. Okay, so basically you can see that this is actually very similar. Okay, of course the values inside is I'm using a different example here, but this is row 1, column 1, okay, row 1, and we have column, sorry, this is row 0, the first column is row 0, and this is column 0, and this is column 1. So here you can see that this example we are not using the reserved word new. So this is how we declare and initialize value for this. Okay, so this is a very simple example. Okay, now please have a look at our lab exercise sheet. Okay, now we have a particular task that we want to do. For example, this one. Okay, so create a two-dimensional array to store the data of the shipping rate table. Now, what we are going to do now here is that we are going to actually store the data from this particular table. But of course, we have the columns here. Okay, we have the columns here, and we have the first, this is like the labels. So what we are actually trying to do is that we are going to store these values, okay, these values here into a two-dimensional array. Okay, and later on we are going to display all these values, okay, all these values onto a view into this particular simple HTML table. Okay, so the first thing that we are to do is that, okay, let us go back to our controller. So I'm going to actually create, okay, another action. Okay, so this is public. Okay, I can use whether view result or action result. So I'm going to use action result. So this is the same for this particular context. Okay, and I'm going to name the action example 2D array. Okay, so this is the name, and I'm going to return the view. Okay, now in terms of the values, okay, now because of here you can have a look that this is all with decimal place. So the best option for us to have this is by actually using a double type two-dimensional array. So to declare this, we use double. Okay, now this is okay, now this is two-dimensional array double type. Okay, let's say that I'm going to name the array rate. Now this is equal. Okay, now this is the outer curly bracket for the arrays itself. So what I'm going to do now is that, okay, I'm just going to enter this so that we can see clearer everything. Okay, you can see that these are the braces that encapsulate the whole of the array. Now, the first row, we have actually okay, we have 5 rows and 4 columns. Okay, we have 5 rows and 4 columns. So basically what we are going to do is that, okay, oops, this is actually row 1. Okay, this is row 2. So this is row number 3. This is row number 4. And lastly, this is row number 5. Okay, this is row number 1. Okay, now within this row there are 4 columns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the values for each of the row. Now the first column, or column 0, we have 1.00, we have 1.50, 1.65, and 1.85. Okay, now this is the first row, and you can see that this is similar: 1.00, 1.50, 1.65, and 1.85. So the rest, actually I'm going to key in a little bit: 1.58, 2.00, 2.40, and we have 3.05. So this is actually the second row, or row 1. Okay, next we have 1.71, 2.52, 3.10, and we have 4.00. Okay, this is the third row, or row 2. Okay, next we have the fourth row, or row number 3. So here we have 2.04, 3.12, 4.00, and 5.01. And for the last row, we have 2.52, 3.75, 5.10, 7.25. Okay, so you can leave the curly bracket here, or it's up to you. You can also just have this here. It's all the same. Okay, this is all the same. Now, because we are going to actually display the values here onto a view similar to what we see here, okay, so we need to use the view bag. Okay, now this is the view bag. So I'm going to actually create a view bag here, and I'm going to name the view bag read. Now this is equal or assignment to read, whereby this particular read is actually this is actually the name of the array. Okay, so for the purpose of consistency, I'm going to rename this as arrays, because just let us assume that all arrays will be in plural form. So I'm going to type this as arrays, and this will also viewBag.arrays. Okay, now that is the first step. Now, to display all this onto the view, so we need to create a view. So we can click anywhere within the action. So we go right click, we add view. Okay, now we have this view name. Okay, we can use a layout page, or if we do not want to use a layout page, we can uncheck this. We click add. So basically for the meantime, we just do not concentrate on this. Okay, just have without any layout. So we click add. Okay, in general, okay, when we check the layout without the layout, meaning that it will add this particular C# code, layout equals to none, and you can see that this is actually how actually with curly bracket, so this becomes the razor or C# environment. Okay, so whatever C# statement applies, okay, the rules will apply here within this particular curly bracket. So the rest is still HTML. Okay, now, okay, what we are going to do is that we are going to actually create a table. So for the meantime, I'm not using this particular div, so I'm going to delete this. Okay, now we are going to use one HTML table. So I'm going to use a table. This is table tag. Okay, now this is table. Okay, let us put some attribute. So currently I'm not using any CSS, just a simple attribute, okay, directly into the table. So let's say we have the width. Okay, the width, I'm going to put it as 100%, so that when the window of the browser expand, the table will expand. And the border size, okay, this is equal to 1. Okay, so this is border equals to 1. Okay, now how do we actually read the content of this particular two-dimensional array here? So similarly to the examples that we have done previously, okay, let's go to the view here. We need to use a for loop. Okay, in our previous example, okay, in example 1, so I'm using actually for each, okay, but here I'm going to use a different for. Okay, so now this will require us to use what we call a nested loop. Okay, now because of this is considered HTML environment, I cannot use for like this, because this for will just consider HTML text. So what I need to do, because I need to implement this in C# or in razor, so I need to put this at. This is for. Okay, now, and this is the conditions, and within these conditions, okay, now this is the block. So I'm going to enter this. So this is actually, this is the outer loop. So the outer loop, the purpose of the outer loop is for reading the rows, and the inner loop is for reading the columns. Okay, now this is the outer loop. Okay, let us write something first here. Now I'm going to use a counter. Let's say int counter is row. Okay, row is a variable. We start with a 0, okay, because the index for row starts with a 0. Next we have, okay, next we will have row less than. Okay, now here we have two ways of doing this. First is that we can actually enter this manually. Manually means that we know that the number of rows is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So meaning that we can immediately put this as 5. Okay, or another way, which is a longer way but it's more flexible. Okay, you can also put in based on, okay, now because we want to automatically generate the number of rows from the array, which is based on the view back, so we have reads dot. Okay, there is a, this is actually a special method, get length. Okay, get length, and this get length will return the number of actually rows. For now we have get length 0. This is for the rows. Okay, and if you put this 1, this is for the column. So because now we are talking about rows, get length 0, and we have row plus plus. So this is increment. Okay, so basically you can put a static value 5 here, or you can use this. Okay, so depends on the application. So I'm just showing how to be more flexible, okay, in with regard to the number of rows. Okay, this is one example. Okay, now this is the outer loop. Okay, now for the outer loop, okay, this is the rows. Okay, then here within the table there must be a row, a TR. So this is a TR. So this is a TR, and within this TR, now here this is the razor or C# environment. But once we put in this TR here, automatically in between these TRs becomes HTML all over again. Okay, so here we have the inner loop. So this is the inner loop. So I can have this 4. Okay, 4. This is the block. Okay, let me put this something like this, 4. Okay, now here I have int column col. This is a variable. Start with 0 because the index is 0. So column less than. Okay, now for the column, you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So you can write this like this, or similarly you can use the view back get length method. Okay, now this is 1. Okay, now for 2-dimensional array, 0 is the row, 1 is the column. Okay, and this we have column plus plus. Okay, okay, now this is TR. Okay, so basically this environment is C# within this block. Okay, however here we are going to put in HTML again, TD. So this is the cell TD. Okay, this is TD. Okay, now I'm going to actually add some formatting here. So I'm going to put a line equals to center. So meaning that the values within the TD will be centered. Okay, this is TD. Now because TD and TD, in between this become HTML again. So I need to actually, if I am to display the values from the controller, so I need to put in the add. I have view back dot read. Now here, because we are going to display the specific rows and column for the specific elements, so here we can use row column. Okay, view back row column. So meaning that we start with 0 0, then 0 1, 0 2, and 0 3, and after it goes out the outer loop, it becomes 1 0, 1 1, 1 2, and 1 3, and so on. Okay, now this view back, because rates is in the form of double, but we want to display it in a form that we can format to string format, 2 decimal places. So I can actually implement this particular toString method, and the formatting is 2 decimal place. So this is the 2 decimal placeholder for this. And you will notice that here, okay, there is no semicolon here because this is not this is razor. So this is actually the whole thing will give out a value. So there is no need for to put this a semicolon here. Okay, semicolon here, because this is eraser. It will just display this particular value. Okay, so what we are going to do now is that we are going to test this. So let us run, see how it goes. Okay, now you can see that here we have displayed in this particular table. Okay, we have 1 2 3 4 5 rows and 1 2 3 4 columns. So this is actually this what we have done, and we have displayed this in a two-dimensional table. You see, in we have displayed this in HTML table. We have displayed this in HTML table.